Project performance has been improving over the past decade. But after 50 or 60 years of software project management and information system development, our practices and our results are still fairly poor, especially as project size increases. The reason we take on risk is because we want the rewards. Let me give you some points of reference. A 1,000 function point project, which is just a way to measure the size of the software artifact, takes about 9 to 12 months, requires about a team of 6 technical experts, costs about $1 million, and is a total failure about 12% of the time. Typically, they're not canceled until they're already over budget. So we do about 70,000 of these a year in the United States. And the cost of failure is about $9 billion. Small projects like this can be big game changers. We're talking about things like Wikipedia at about 1,100 function points, the iPod at about 1,400. But big projects are clearly worth it too. Consider that, Quicken and SAS are about 10,000 function point projects. Clearly, software artifacts upon which entire businesses have been built. And also things at the 20,000 level are things like the iPhone, Travelocity, Amazon, clearly game changers. At 10,000 function points, you're talking about a project that takes 3 to 4 years, costs about $30 million, requires a team of about 60, and totally fails about 1/3 of the time. We do about 22,000 of these a year in the United States, and that's about $71 billion in wasted money, time, technical expert resources, etc. So, look, if these projects are worth doing, if these risks are worth taking on, then they're worth doing right. So it behooves us to find, manage, and mitigate project risks. Clearly, there's no shortage of major failures, and IT project problems, let alone failures, can hurt and even kill companies. Our reason for focusing on early warning signs is simply that if we can identify requirements and risks early, then we can increase the probability of success, lower the probability of problems, including cost overruns, which is what this little graphic is demonstrating. I completed a study recently for the Society for Information Management's Enterprise Architecture Working Group, which, if you're interested in it, there's a preliminary report available online at SIMNet, SIMNET.org, on the EA Working Group's page. What we found was requirements analysis and design practices are actually very weak, much weaker than I would have expected. And we also see this in our early warning signs study that Bob and I conducted. That several of the top-ranked early warning signs are related to requirements. But requirements failure, by the time you see requirements failure, those failures have root causes. Let me explain. The IT project management research over the last several decades, it indicates that there's 3 main sources of risk: people, process, and the product, the artifact that you're actually working on. Before there's symptoms of actual trouble, for example, defects or cost and time overruns, there's early warning signs or predictors of trouble coming. Just like smoking is a predictor of lung cancer. Someone smoking, that's an early warning sign. Does everyone get lung cancer? No, but the probability is fairly high that a smoker will get lung cancer. So before there's signs of symptoms of requirements failure, we'd like to mitigate those risks so that there isn't a requirements failure or any other kind of failure. But staying with this example of requirements failure, when we look at our early warning signs that are highly rated by experienced project managers, we see things like the availability of subject matter experts early in the project. And, in a slide or two, you'll see the definition we use for early warning signs. But the basic idea was something you could identify in the first 20% of the project that could lead to to failure. All right, so subject matter experts not available, a people stakeholder risk, and if they're not available, then the chance of getting requirements right is clearly reduced. Also, the adequate skills of the project team. Again, if you don't have good analysts that can work with those subject matter experts, then you're going to have issues. Process also. Things like, do we see requirements milestones, inspections of requirements and sign-offs, a project charter, a business case. All things that would tell us that requirements are not going to be successful. And the empirical research on project outcomes confirms this kind of point of view also. There's a minor glitch in this slide. The two people circles are supposed to be connected. We just had a little glitch when it got uploaded. There's a good copy of these slides on the Project Success Audit website under Publications, and you're welcome to go get the complete set of slides there that has this one corrected. But it's just to merely just informing you that those two people circles are actually people circles and should be connected. This is from some research by Wallace and Kyle. This particular one was in decision sciences, but you've seen their work perhaps in communications of the ACM. Mark's done some things in Harvard Business Review, Mark Kyle. And what you're looking at is a structural equation model. It's basically a kind of multiple regression analysis. You could call it regression on steroids. You can see that all three sources of risk matter, but note that, continuing with this requirements example, excuse me, the stakeholder side of risk, the bigger people circle, manifest themselves through project failure, where the greatest risk, in other words, look at the arrows coming out of social subsystem risk. The one that goes straight to project management risk is insignificant. It's a fairly small number of 12. 12 basically means like 2% of the variance is explained. But look at the 6.66 number going from social subsystem risk to technical subsystem risk. That's basically telling us that about 40% of the variance is explained. I'm basically just squaring that path number. And then looking in that product circle, notice that requirements risk, that link to technical subsystem risk, the artifact risk itself, is the biggest number on that whole page. In other words, if you fail on the requirements, the research tells us what we already know, then you have no chance of success, basically. If I am building the wrong system, no matter how well I do it, no matter how well I execute, no matter how good my technical expertise is, I'm not going to succeed. And that's basically what Fred Brooks' No Silver Bullet article years ago has told us. But all three sources of RT project risk do matter. That's very clear from this. And a good process is critical. Now this, good process and good project management are the kinds of things that move you from a CMM capability maturity level 1 to level 3. And what you're looking at here is just an example of a repeatable process that Bob and I created for the Department of Veterans Affairs several years ago when we were setting up a project management office there for them, which apparently by the results of the latest audit